Hey guys, okay, before we get into today's episode, I do have a very exciting announcement. You asked, I listened, spring merch is finally here. And you know what we like to do. We design everything in-house. I have my fashion background, so I get to be very, anal with what I want. And we have about 15 new items that launched today. You can get access to them over on our website at annieelise.com. Patreon gets first access the first 24 hours, so we always do that. So a bonus reason to be a Patreon. I have a couple of the items here. I'll just show you really quick, but our Make It Make Sense tee with the infamous brows, and we did a little spring update version on the back. Also, new design, my personal fave. Adventure is out there, but so are serial killers, so I stay home. We've got a ton of things. We've got tumblers, we've got sweatshirts, we've got embroidered sweatsuits, matching joggers. I mean, so much stuff. So merch is live, but it won't be available for long. Once it sells out, it sells out. We are allowing pre-orders through next Monday, but then that will be cut off, and then we will not be back with merch until the fall. So now's the time, guys. Quantities are limited. Scoop it up at annieelise.com and let me know what you guys want to see in the next collection. I always love getting your feedback, and we, of course, design and create the collection for you for what you're looking for. So let me know what it is you guys want in the next one. And as always, thank you so much for your support. There are cases that stay with you long after you've heard them, not because they're shocking or salacious, but because they reveal something gut-wrenching about the systems that we are supposed to trust. And today's case is one of those cases. It's about a man who wore a badge, someone who was praised, respected, and seen as a protector. But behind that badge was a pattern, a very deeply disturbing one. Because when he pulled women over, it wasn't about traffic violations or speeding tickets. It wasn't about public safety. It was about power. And the women that he targeted, they were chosen for a reason. He counted on their silence. He counted on the system to protect him. But what he didn't count on was her. And today we're sharing the story of a survivor who refused to stay quiet, and the case that would shake up a city, divide public opinion, and expose how deep injustice can run, even when it's wearing a uniform. Hey guys, my name is Annie Elise. This is 10 to Life, and today's story may be hard for some of you to hear, but it's one that I truly believe needs to be heard. Let's jump right in. Daniel Holtzclaw was a 28-year-old man living in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, back in 2014, which is when the majority of this case took place. He was originally born in Guam, but he spent most of his childhood and teenage years in Edund, Oklahoma. Now, Edund is actually the 9th largest city in Oklahoma, and it's only about an hour and a half north, give or take, of Oklahoma City. He was the youngest of 3 kids, and he was also his parents Eric and Komika's only son. So it's fair to say that him being the baby and the only boy, they definitely doted on him a little bit. Now, Daniel was also biracial. His father was German-American, and his mother was Japanese. But in spite of that, Daniel was your basic, stereotypical, all-American guy. He played football at the local high school. During his time there, he actually set a lot of records as a linebacker for their football team, and he was a really successful athlete. So with the all-American cool guy athlete stereotype, of course come some popularity. And it's definitely fair to say that Daniel was both pretty well liked and also well known by everybody in his school. And being that he had played football basically his whole life, he was a pretty big guy and had, big muscles to kind of back it up. Growing up, he even apparently had the nickname The Claw, an abbreviation of his last name, Holtzclaw. So after graduating high school in 2005, Daniel set his sights on the NFL. He accepted a Division I football scholarship to play linebacker at Eastern Michigan University, just kind of chasing the dream full speed ahead. And at the same time, he followed in his dad's footsteps by majoring in criminal justice. His dad had been a lieutenant with the police department, and that left a lasting impression on Daniel. But as much as he gave it his all on the field, it started to become clear that the NFL might not be in the cards for him. He just wasn't catching the attention of the right recruiters. Yet still, after graduating in 2010, Daniel gave it one last shot and he tried out for the NFL. Unfortunately, though, he didn't make the team. So he turned to the degree that he had earned along the way, and he joined the Oklahoma City Police Department. Now fast forward to 2014, and Daniel was a few years into his career as an Oklahoma City police officer. June 18th, 2014, it was a hot summer night even after the sun had gone down. And at about 2 a.m., it was still very warm outside, and Daniel was driving home from his shift. And even though he wasn't technically on the clock, he was in his police car. And that's when he pulled over 57-year-old Janie Lagans. Now, Janie was a daycare worker and a grandmother, two things that brought her a lot of pride and joy. She had been over at a friend's house late that night playing bingo and now was on her way home. And it's really important to note that Janie was completely sober. No alcohol, no drugs, nothing in her system. She also wasn't speeding. In other words, she hadn't done anything wrong. But still, at one point she looked in her rearview mirror and she saw flashing police lights. Her first thought was confusion. She had no idea why she was getting pulled over. But she knows, rules are rules, I'm obviously going to pull over, so she pulled over on the side of the road and she parked her car. So that's when Daniel walked up to her window, as we know police officers do usually when they pull somebody over. So Daniel told her that the reason why she was being pulled over was because she had been swerving, which kind of only made Janie more confused because remember, she hadn't been drinking. She wasn't under the influence of any drugs. It's not like she hit some sort of icy patch on a hot summer night either. Like, what do you mean swerving? She just couldn't believe that she had been driving erratically, and she felt like she definitely would have noticed if she had been. Well, Daniel never wrote her a ticket, which, to be honest, giving her a ticket never really seemed to be his plan in the first place. In fact, when Daniel first pulled her car over, he even failed to report it to dispatch, which failed is actually putting it lightly, like he forgot. It was purposeful. On top of that, he logged off his patrol car computer. So there was no record of this stop, none whatsoever. And at first, I was kind of confused by that information. I thought, okay, doesn't it kind of add up that he would have logged off since he wasn't technically on the clock anymore, and maybe he saw someone who wasn't being safe and was dangerous, so he pulled her over? I don't know. But apparently, at least in the case of Oklahoma City Police Department, it's policy for the officers to not log off until they are home. And I guess maybe for instances like this, when there's questions that come up. And when Daniel was later asked why he logged off before getting home, his excuse was that that was just what he always did. Now, whether or not that is true, I don't know, but let me get back to that night. So instead of giving Janie a ticket, Daniel instructed her to get out of her car. Again, she was confused. She hadn't done anything to warrant being pulled over, and she certainly didn't feel like she had done anything to be searched. It's not a crime to be out late at night, obviously. But despite how she personally felt about this situation, she complied. Then once she was out of the car, Daniel started patting her down. Again, she didn't resist, but she also didn't understand why this needed to happen. Of course, Daniel didn't find anything weird or suspicious during this pat down on her, but he still didn't allow her to just get back in her car. Instead, things took a very unexpected turn. In that moment, almost like a scene from that movie Crash, Daniel instructed Janie to lift her shirt up and pull her pants down. She was terrified. She was scared. She didn't know what to do. And once again, not wanting to say no to a police officer, she just complied. Then he brought out his very big, bright flashlight and he pointed her right at her, which she was now nearly naked and defenseless at that. And he just pointed this flashlight directly at her body. So at this point, she felt violated in every way possible. And I can only assume she wasn't only terrified, but wanted to get out of there as fast as possible and safely. That's not what happened. As if what was happening wasn't already awful enough, Daniel then instructed Janie to get inside of his patrol car. And once inside, he forced her to perform oral sex on him. He said that if she didn't, he was going to take her to jail. Now remember, Janie was a daycare worker. She absolutely loved her job, which, of course, if you're going to work with kids, you need to have a spotless criminal record. So when Daniel threatened to arrest her if she didn't cooperate, the threat wasn't just that she would have to be arrested, which that would have been terrible in and of itself on its own, but she wanted to keep her job. And she knew that if she didn't keep Daniel happy and do whatever he said, she could lose her job, her whole career. She would lose her reputation. She would never be able to work with kids again. So naturally, she was terrified. And she begged Daniel over and over again, don't make me do these things. I don't want to do it. She didn't want to have to choose between being sexually assaulted or getting her life ruined for absolutely no reason at all. And she even recalled her exact plea to him, saying, quote, "Oh no, sir, you aren't supposed to do this. You aren't supposed to do this to me, sir." But he didn't care. In fact, he apparently told her, hurry up, I don't have all night, which, the nerve. But as if things weren't already horrific enough, she felt certain of one more thing in that moment, that no matter what she did, no matter how much she cooperated or begged for her life, that he was not going to let her leave that night. She just felt deep down that he was going to shoot her, that he was going to try to kill her to cover up what he had done. She had seen enough movies, she had seen enough, 2020 episodes to know how these things usually end, and she was terrified. So because of that, Janny decided to do everything that she could do to make it clear to Daniel that she wouldn't be a threat to him. That if he just let her live, he wouldn't need to worry about her reporting him afterwards. I mean, at least that's what she needed him to believe. So the whole time that Daniel was assaulting Janny, she just refused to make eye contact with him. She also made sure she didn't look up at his name tag or his badge number, anything that could make him think that she was collecting information to then identify him later on. She just didn't do it, made sure that there was nothing he could use to make that argument. And she also made it as obvious as she could. And to Janny's surprise, her plan worked. Daniel didn't kill her. He didn't even bother telling her not to tell anyone. He seemed overly confident that he was going to get away with it too. I mean, so smug about what he had just done, which that was almost as infuriating as the horror of what he had actually done to her. Now, of course, we can't say for sure if killing Janny was ever part of Daniel's plan. But as we dig deeper into this case today, you'll see that that doesn't mean that he just had a change of heart or that he was just being reckless. Not even close. Because in fact, the choice that he made next, it might have been more calculated than you think. Because even though he didn't kill her or say a word to her about keeping quiet, he still made one more chilling move to keep her silent. He told her to get in her car and drive home like nothing ever happened, which sounds harmless enough, right? But then, when she was driving home, he followed her the entire way. He wanted her to know that he knew exactly where she lived, that he was right there, that he could get access to her anytime, that she wasn't even safe in her own home. Really, that's what he was doing. What a creep. And there's no question that after that night, Janny's life was just changed forever. Now, the good news for her and the bad news for Daniel is that she was a force to be reckoned with. She was so brave. She was fearless. I mean, seriously, if I even have half of her strength when I'm 57, I will be proud. Because she wasn't about to just let this go quietly. She wasn't going to just disappear into the night. Not at all. She was hurt. She was traumatized. But more than anything, she was angry. And all that anger, all that fire, it is what fueled everything that came next. Because what Janny experienced in those moments, the fear, the uncertainty, and what followed in the days after, I mean, it set off a chain of events that would change everything. She knew that the odds were stacked against her when it came to holding Daniel accountable. I mean, remember, he was a police officer, which for a lot of people, it automatically makes him seem more trustworthy, more credible. And she was a Black woman, and she knew that unfortunately that could make people less likely to believe her, to take her side. And if it turned into a he said, she said situation, she really had no solid proof. She didn't know his full name, she didn't know his badge number. Remember, things that she intentionally avoided learning during the attack just so that she would survive. But despite all of that, despite knowing how hard it would be to go against him, she still marched right into that police station and she filed a report against Daniel. So the next day, Daniel came in and clocked in for his shift, which was supposed to last from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. He showed up feeling very good about himself, very confident, very certain that his own decisions, weren't going to backfire in his face. But right away, he could tell that things were a little weird and a little tense at the office. And you know that moment when you walk into a room and nobody wants to make eye contact with you and the energy just feels off? Well, that's exactly how this was. Before he could even do anything around the office or go out on patrol, he was pulled aside inside. Then, 2 of his fellow officers marched him down to be interrogated by the department's sex crime unit. And this wasn't just Daniel being pulled over for a quick chat to let him know, that somebody had made these really big claims against him. This interview ended up lasting over 2 hours. Now, during this interview, Daniel stayed somewhat calm, cool, collected. He never shouted, started crying, never got angry, nothing like that. And some would even describe his actions and his words as being very arrogant, very cocky. The interviewer, interestingly enough, later described him as being very robotic, which you can decide for yourself.
Well, it sounds like this is the lady, this is the deal where she's the complaining party. Okay. And she's making some sexual allegations, obviously, because sex crimes is working it.
Right. What did she say?
Well, was there anything an accidental touch, anything.
If she thought it when I pass searched her, but it was nothing as far as I felt like I would do anything as far as sexual or anything like that. For my safety, I just checked to see if the weapons or anything. To make clear, I didn't touch her butt, but the waist side and whatnot. If you would like me to do it for me to show you.
No, and I'm fine with it, and you have every right to do that.
Right.
She's saying that you made her lift up her shirt, and when she lifted up her shirt, she exposed her breasts.
No.
Did you ever see
I asked her, is there anything inside your bra? And she said no. So I was like, okay. And she said, you want me to show you? And that's all the time I said, no, you don't need to do that.
She said she said she was doing this. When you said, is there anything inside your bra? And she was going, no, I don't have anything like that. Did she do that?
Yeah, she did, but I didn't look or anything like that.
Right.
And then she was like, do you want me to show you? I was like, no.
She said when she said, do you want me to show you? You said, yeah, and she went,
woo. No, I didn't.
But could she have been, woo, flashing you? And now you don't want to tell me because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble?
No, when I told her no, I said no.
Then she didn't go, yeah, because sometimes drunk girls are
having a good time.
Yeah, and partying down. And let's face it,
I've already heard stories about officers and whatnot.
They want officers for hubbies or whatever.
I said no.
But you could have said no. But I'm asking you if she flashed you anyways.
I didn't see her. I didn't see her breasts. Boobies? I didn't see her breasts.
Okay. What about pants?
Nothing in her pants as far as I can see. She was wearing tight jeans. So
she said she pulled them down.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see her pulling down?
I didn't see her pulling down pants.
Could she have done it when you were up searching the car?
She could have.
Did she have them on?
I didn't have her handcuffed or anything.
When you came back to the car and got her out, were her pants fastened? Were they?
Yeah, everything.
They were up and
everything was still intact.
So you never saw her pull her pants down?
No, I didn't.
Why do you think she's making this up?
I don't know.
Did you write her a ticket?
I didn't. I let her go, and I said I want to arrest you for your no STL.
Trying to figure out why she'd say that. I mean, I could see her saying it if you wrote her a ticket because she's pissed off.
Right.
Now, make it quite clear, if you saw her boobs, I don't care if she's flashing you.
I did not see her.
You did not see her boobies?
No, I did not see her breasts.
So she's saying you shined your light on her.
I did not see her breasts.
Where do you keep your flashlight?
The left side right here, right behind my radio.
Did you have your flashlight out on the traffic stop?
I did.
When she was going like this, did you have your flashlight on her?
I didn't go like that. But as I'm out on the radio like this, I have it right positioned over us, but I didn't.
Right, but did you have it on her when you're talking to her so you can see her? I mean, was it on her when she goes like this? Maybe she could have construed it.
To see her inside the vehicle.
Was the dome light on?
The dome light was not on.
It didn't come on? I don't know how. Does that come on when you open your back door? It's been too long since I've been in a scout car.
I can't recall, to be honest with you. I don't think I don't think it does. As far as the dome light.
I'm just trying to figure out.
Now you can tell the woman interviewing him just isn't buying it. And look, while I'm someone who's naturally inclined to believe women when they come forward, I do also understand that getting false claims can happen. Sometimes people get angry after getting a ticket. They say things out of spite, just like the detective suggested. But in this case, Daniel didn't even give her a ticket. According to him, the entire stop only lasted 10 to 15 minutes. So if all he really did was waste a few minutes of her time, why would she make up something this serious? Why go through the trouble of creating such a detailed, disturbing story? It just doesn't make sense. And that might have been exactly what started to unravel Daniel's story.
If you're standing right here and you're a big guy,
right,
and she's sitting right here, if she goes like this, well, she's going to be looking right at your penis.
Okay. But it was just talking.
Let me ask you this, did you ever get a hard-on while you were talking to her? Because she could have...
I don't think
these pants don't fit the greatest,
right.
And if you get a hard-on, I'm going to be able to tell you got a hard-on.
Right, and I'm pretty positive I didn't get a hard-on.
Didn't get a hard-on when you talked to her? Well,
positive.
Do you still just get boners because you get boners?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So, have you ever got a boner on a call?
I'm pretty sure I have.
Okay.
Pretty sure I have.
But it's not something you would
No.
remember. I mean, I would remember if I got a hard on
Right.
talking to somebody.
And as a guy, it happens.
That's not something. I know.
So.
Well, you're not 50 yet either, so happens because of your age. Could she have Could you have got a hard on and she saw it and it
I don't think I got
scared her?
I don't think I got a hard on, but like I said, she was already nervous and crying and whatnot. I already told her, I'm like, hey, I want to go home. I'm done with my shift. Nothing to be worried about. If nothing's on board where I need to take you to jail, you're good. I'm not worried about no state driver's license.
Now, my favorite part of interrogations is always, without a doubt, when the investigators ask a question that they already know the answer to. It's like they're setting a trap, right? Giving the person just enough rope for them to hang themselves. And in that department, Daniel's interrogation did not disappoint.
Did your pants come unzipped, unbuttoned, anything while you were standing right there?
No.
CSI is processing your car right now.
Right.
And when we stepped out, they found some pubic hairs right in here. Could they be yours?
No, that's not. I didn't pull my penis out. I didn't do anything right there.
Did she?
No.
But do you think they could be?
No, it's not. No. Nothing of mine.
Your pubes couldn't be
No.
right there?
No.
Has your penis ever been out by your car?
While I'm working? No.
Not working.
No.
Have you ever had sex in the backseat of your car?
I have not.
Because, I mean, some people do. You know, I mean, I'm not saying forced sex, consensual sex.
Right.
So your penis has never been in your backseat.
Mm-mm.
Is it possible any of this DNA is yours?
No. It's not. That's. I would like to go at it. Not my DNA.
Are those pubes going to be yours?
No. No.
Are you worried about it?
This whole situation I'm worried about. I mean, I've never been here, never been questioned, especially in like a room like this, obviously I'm worried about the whole circumstances of
Earlier,
station
you got to
and
understand, we kind of see different things, okay? You seemed a little extra worried whenever you talked about seeing her. We talked about seeing her boobies.
everything.
You sure she just didn't flash you?
She did not flash. I want to say I can't recall, but I'm pretty positive she didn't
When I
flash.
see a pair of titties,
She went like this, but nothing as far as I'm going like crazy looking.
lifting the shirt.
No.
How far did she lift it?
When she lifted it up first, when I patted her down, she was like right here to like stomach line.
Did you see her belly?
Maybe some fat rolls or something, I don't know, but nothing
Right,
like
but I mean, could you see skin?
Yeah, I saw skin, yeah.
Well, she's older. Were tits hanging down, and you saw the bottom of her tits?
I don't know. I don't know. It's dark. I don't know.
You like older women?
I don't.
How old's your
How's
girlfriend?
She's 25.
Okay.
What's the oldest lady you've slept with?
Maybe 29.
You ever slept with a black woman?
I have. In high school, I have.
Okay.
Do you have a race that you prefer?
I don't.
So the longer he talked, the more he contradicted himself, right? He said that he had his flashlight on, that he was pointing right at her chest, but didn't know whether or not he ever saw her skin or her breasts because it was dark, and it was like he couldn't remember exactly what even happened. Now keep in mind, this interview took place the very next day, but he was acting like what had happened was some distant memory from years ago. And like the guy in the interview room said, if he saw somebody's breasts literally the night before, I'm gonna remember. That's not an I don't know or a maybe kind of situation. So it was just red flag after red flag after red flag. Now there was one point toward the end of the interview that I believe was what made this whole story just crash and burn, though it was pretty much already catching fire from like the very start. But by this point in the interview, they've already laid out everything for him. They've got to test his car, the pants he's wearing, since they were the same ones from the night before, everything. And if nothing sexual had happened, there should be no evidence of that, right? So again, they're asking him questions like, have you ever had sex in your patrol car? And not in a bad or unlawful way, like with somebody you pulled over or with a citizen, but maybe even his girlfriend. You know, you never know, maybe it was some sort of role-playing fantasy type thing. But he continued to deny everything. Even outside of work, completely consensual, he claimed that no, he never had sex inside his patrol car. So then they ask him, well, if we test your pants and it comes back that there are traces of semen on them, what would be the reason for that? And this clearly rattled him a little bit, because for the first time, Daniel actually starts to veer off from his usual script of deny, deny, deny. Instead, he says something along the lines of, well, hypothetically, if that test came back positive, there's a perfectly good explanation, and it had nothing to do with assaulting that woman, even if, yeah, it might look a little bit sketchy. And then he launches into this pretty graphic story about how the night before, he got home and apparently was so overcome with lust that he didn't even change out of his uniform before trying to have sex with his girlfriend, Carrie. And I say trying because according to him, Carrie had already been asleep for hours. He got into bed, started feeling her up, which eventually woke her up, and then he says he kept trying to initiate things, but she told him that she wasn't in the mood, that she wanted to go back to sleep. So, no actual sex happened that night. And it seems like the kind of story you could easily confirm, right? Well, not exactly.
Okay, who all was home when you got home?
My girlfriend, Carrie Hunt.
You live with anybody else?
No, no.
Is she a policeman?
No, she's not.
Carrie Hunt?
Carrie Hunt.
What's her number?
You go through my phone?
Yeah.
As much as I don't want to get her involved.
We're not going to tell her what's going on, but we are
You
going
can
to.
tell her whatever you want to.
Yeah, we're not going to.
Her number is going to be 918.
Does she work? Are we going to, if we
She
call her?
does work.
Does she
works
work now?
normal 8 to 5 hours, Monday through Friday.
Okay. Where does she work?
At a Crest and Oil Memorial in MacArthur area. Around there.
You created some more work. We were fixing to go. I just talked to Carrie.
Okay.
She said she was asleep when you got home and you did not try to have sex and you did not have sex.
They try to have sex with
She
you.
says you didn't. And I asked her, could you have been asleep? And you had kind of, no. And she said no. You did not try to have sex.
As much as I don't want to involve her, I tried to have sex with her and she was asleep. Carrie goes to sleep pretty early, about 9, 10 at the late.
Okay, but she would know if you tried. I'm a woman.
I know.
And my husband comes home in the middle of the night and I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been asleep. You said you twirled around her vagina
I did.
and you put it in a little bit and then she said, I'm tired. No.
I did.
She would remember that to tell me.
Shoot. Maybe.
She said you did not try to have sex.
And it's more personal because it's Carrie, but I did try to have sex with Carrie. I did.
I don't know what to say. I mean, because it just looks like I just caught you in a lie. And now I don't know what to believe.
I'm telling you.
I don't know what to believe
Okay.
because you tell me this, I go to verify it. She tells me the opposite, and now I'm wondering what you're telling the truth about.
Maybe because she doesn't know what the heck's going on.
No, she doesn't. I didn't tell her.
And I'm glad, but detectives calling her, any other officer asking her a question like that,
I know.
she may be scared. And I don't want to involve her, but
She's involved
that's
because
my
you
girlfriend. That's like,
you need her involved for you.
right.
But now she's given the story that you're not given.
I'm telling you, I tried to have sex with Carrie, my girlfriend.
She
Yeah,
is
that
going to
shit
remember your weenie twirling around her hoo-ha. You remember that. I'm sorry, I don't care how much of a sleeper you are. You remember because it pisses you off in the middle of the night and you go, are you serious? Don't bother me with that.
Maybe you should call her and ask her if she's a deep sleeper. Because there's multiple times I've tried to do that. Multiple times we've had sex. Multiple times she has pushed me
Well,
off.
you told me that you have sex every day, and she says you did not have sex today.
We didn't have sex today. No. Every day.
Well, you said you have sex every day.
Mostly every day, yes.
So if I call her back, is she going to tell me that y'all have sex every day?
We did not have sex, but recently, mostly every day, yeah.
I'm a woman, and I know what it feels like to be woke up for sex, and I don't like that. And you remember it, and I don't believe you.
I'm telling you the truth. I'm sorry. I tried to have sex with my girlfriend. I did.
I don't know. You're a dude. Does your wife get pissed off if you try to wake her up in the middle of the night?
She had white thong on and a t-shirt.
Okay, you talk to him. I'm gonna go call her again.
Okay.
Because right now, I don't believe it.
Hey, the pants.
You want me to bring him in?
Yeah.
Again, this was just the night prior, which I could see if they asked Carrie about a random night maybe 5 months ago. Sure, maybe that would be pretty hard to remember. But like the interviewing officer said, she would remember whether or not he tried to have sex with her 12 hours earlier. I mean, there's no way around it. Half asleep or not, she would know. But after this interview was finished, Daniel was free to go. He didn't walk out in handcuffs, he wasn't arrested, none of it. The only punishment he faced, at that time at least, was that he was put on administrative leave. And get this, the leave was paid. He had to turn in his badge, his gun, all his official equipment, but then he got to go on this nice, long, paid vacation. That was his punishment for assaulting Janny. And here's where it gets even more frustrating. Not only did it seem like the police were basically, rewarding Daniel for this attack, but also this wasn't even the first time that someone had accused Daniel of doing something like this. At the time of Janny's assault, he was already under investigation for another sexual allegation. Now, a lot of the details of that specific investigation have not been made public, so I don't know all the specifics. But I do know that the investigation began on or before May 8th, 2014, which, by the way, was a few weeks before Janny's assault. And get this, he wasn't just being investigated for one other attack on one other woman. No. Multiple women had come forward, all either describing Daniel to a complete T, if not outright naming him as their attacker. And all of these women were Black women, just like Janny. I couldn't find the details on who the victim was that originally came forward to actually, get the ball rolling on this internal investigation. But the main thing is that even while they were investigating Daniel for all of these assaults, they allowed him to continue working. Now, I know that being able to continue working as a police officer while being investigated is pretty common, but I keep reiterating this for a very specific reason, which I will get into shortly here. But a few weeks after the investigation had already opened, another woman named Terry Morris came forward. She wasn't the one who filed the original report in May, but on May 28th, 2014, she officially filed her own complaint against Daniel. And along with Terry's complaint, there's also a 911 call that came in right after her alleged assault. Now, I do have to say alleged because, spoiler alert, Daniel was never held accountable for what happened to Terry. But here's what's especially heartbreaking. This 911 call wasn't made to report the assault. It was actually a call made by Terry's ex-boyfriend, Christopher, and he was asking the police for help because Terry was having a full-blown mental breakdown, like throwing things, tearing the inside of his car apart, just completely unraveling. But if you listen closely in the background of that call, you can hear Terry. She sounds absolutely inconsolable, and she's describing through sobbing how she was sexually assaulted by a police officer.
Oklahoma City 911, what's your emergency? Hello? Hello? Hello?
I feel like a mother ripped my heart out and tried to put it back inside. I feel like
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Where are you?
I'm on 23rd and Kelly.
Okay, you're at a house or you're at the intersection?
I'm at the Valero on 23rd and Kelly.
What's going on there, sir?
I see a friend of mine. She was walking down Kelly's side, falling in the street, so I gave her a ride. I was going to take her home to a grandmama's house, but she wouldn't get out. So she told me to take her on 23rd. And I've been trying to get her out for the last 30 minutes. And now she's saying...
Okay. Are you in the Valero?
Pardon?
You in at the Valero, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What kind of car are you in, sir?
I'm in a 1992 Acura Legend.
What color?
It is tan.
What's her name, sir?
Her name's Terry Lynn Morris.
She white, black, Hispanic, or Indian?
She black.
How old is she?
She tearing my car up.
I understand.
She's 43. Terry Lynn. You done tore up my thing.
So you done call the people, the same motherfuckers that raped me. I don't even know the police.
Could you hurry up here, sir?
Sir, I'm not driving the officer's car,
when they
okay?
do call, because let me describe the police that raped me the other night.
Yeah, you should see them very close, very soon.
She just tore my radio out.
Because her friend,
Let me know when you see the officer.
Oh, yeah, she's trying. I'm shutting the door. She's up here tearing my stuff up.
Do you see the officer?
Here he is.
Now, I'm not saying that what she did to her ex and was doing to him is okay, but her reaction, I mean, it makes complete sense to me. This was somebody having a raw, physical, visceral response to a traumatic event that had just happened. And I can only imagine how alone she must have felt, like nobody believed her. And while I've never been in that exact position, I do know how it feels when people around you make you seem like you're the problem, like you're the crazy one. So there ended up being a total of 5 incidents, counting Terry's, between the time that the investigation began and when he attacked Janny. And remember, those were just during his investigation. He had no fewer than 8 allegations against him in total, 5 of them while he was under investigation, which then Janny filed her report, pushed the department to finally put him on leave and get the ball rolling. I mean, so really when you think about it, it's no wonder that they finally suspended him at this point. They probably felt like they had no other option, right? And you might be wondering, okay, but what made Janny's report different? Why did the department take her assault seriously after they basically shrugged off 8 other women? Obviously, I can't read anybody's minds. I can't tell you exactly what the police department investigators were thinking in that moment. But if I had to take a guess, I'd say that one big difference was that she went to the media pretty much day one. And after she came forward and told her story, blasting Daniel's name all over the news, other victims began coming forward too. That's beyond the 8 that I already mentioned. The important thing to still remember, though, is that Janny was the very first person to speak up for herself, which... Was she the first victim to report the assaults? No, but she was the first victim that wasn't taking no for an answer. She was the first victim to go to the media and pretty much guarantee that the police department wasn't just going to shove her report under the rug.
When he stopped me, he just made a big, big mistake.
Why do you think he targeted you and so many other women?
I think he was thinking that every woman he stopped had some kind of record, or he could hold something over our heads, and that didn't happen with me. He just stopped the wrong person.
From the start, it was clear that Daniel had a type. Every single one of his victims was a black woman, and most of them came from circumstances where they had very little power or where their voices were rarely taken seriously by the system. Aside from Janny, all of the women also had prior criminal records. Some struggled with drug use, some were sex workers, and for others, it was just petty charges. But the point is, these were women who, by society standards, were easy to dismiss, easy to label as unreliable, untrustworthy. And that made it easier for people in power to just ignore them, to write off their stories without a second thought. And there was another clear pattern. Aside from Janny, nearly all of Daniel's victims were living in poverty or came from low-income neighborhoods. So it wasn't just about who he chose, but it was about who he thought he could get away with targeting. Daniel knew exactly what he was doing, and to be clear, he wasn't stalking his victims for extended periods of time or anything. He wasn't waiting for them to slip up so that he could swoop in. It was more of a spur of the moment, like when the occasion was right type of thing. Was the woman alone? Check. Did she have a criminal record or any pending charges that he could use against her? Check. Was she living in a lower income area? Check, check. And when it came to race, it was clear. Black women were his specific preference. That was his MO. Until he chose the wrong woman. Because Janny was not someone to be messed with. She had no criminal background. She also, she wasn't wealthy, but she was financially stable. She also had a solid, respectable job working with children, which, to be clear, I'm not saying that that made what happened to her more wrong than what happened to any of the other women. Every single victim deserves justice, no matter their background, no matter what they do for work, no matter their race, where they live, whatever the circumstances and details are. But the reality is, it's easier to be taken seriously when you don't fit into a certain box. And Janny didn't. She had the kind of social standing that people believed her when she spoke up. She had a voice that people listened to, one that couldn't be dismissed so easily. And she used that voice to become an advocate, not just for herself, but for every woman that Daniel had violated and silenced before her. She got on the news, she raised awareness to what was happening, and she even created an environment where other women, including women who didn't have the same background as her, could feel comfortable coming forward. In total, 13 women came forward with stories of disgusting, non-consensual things that Daniel had done to them. The youngest victim who would eventually come forward was only 17 years old, while the oldest was Janny, who was 57. And the 17-year-old victim's story is especially heartbreaking because not only was she so young, but Daniel ended up attacking her right on her own mother's porch. She had been out with two of her friends that day, but at some point the two friends started arguing, which then drew attention toward them. Daniel had been the responding officer to come de-escalate the situation, and even though she wasn't the one fighting or arguing, she was there. So he went through all the steps, looking her up in the system, looking her friends up in the system, seeing if there was anything noteworthy about any of them. The friends were cleared, and Daniel basically just told them, stop fighting. Nothing concerning came up when Daniel had looked them up, so he let them go. But when he looked up his victim's name and saw that she had a warrant out for trespassing, that was what he needed. Right away, learning that she had this warrant made her the perfect victim. The only problem in his plan was her two friends were waiting on her. So at the time, nothing happened. He told her to get the warrant taken care of before she turned 18, and then he let all of them go together. Which they honestly probably thought that he was, a pretty cool, chill cop for how little he reacted to the situation. But little did they know, it was all part of his bigger plan, his bigger scheme. Because later that day, Daniel saw her while she was walking back home to her mom's house. She was completely alone this time. And the reason I'm using air quotes saying saw are because, what are the odds? I think he was probably watching her, if not following her. But he saw her going home. And what did he do? He pulled over and he started talking to her. He then told her to get inside of the car so that he could give her a ride home, trying to pretend that he was this nice cop trying to help her. But then once they got to her house, things took a turn for the worst. He followed her to the front door, which was inside an enclosed porch. And at this point, he started getting a bit angry with her. The reasoning for this was because no one was home and she didn't have keys to get inside the house. So instead of just taking that for what it was, he started getting frustrated and accused her of lying and taking him to the wrong house. So this was when he started threatening her and telling her that he could just arrest her right then and there for her warrant. Which sounds kind of familiar, just like when he was threatening Janny with jail time, he was now threatening this young girl. The only difference was this girl actually did have something on her record. She knew he wasn't playing around and that he could very easily do what he was threatening to do. She said that then he searched her, which for what? I don't know. It was probably just an excuse to start putting his hands on her. Then she said he bent her over the chair that was on the porch and he raped her. Later, she said she didn't know what to do, that as soon as he started searching her, she knew that she was in trouble. He already knew that nobody was in the house, nobody was going to come barging out the front door and save her. She also knew that fighting back would be pointless. Even if she said, screw this, I'd rather go to jail, he was a big guy. And this was a detail that she pointed out specifically because she knew what she wanted in that moment didn't even matter. He was so much bigger and stronger than her, and he wasn't going to leave that house until he got what he wanted. So it was yet another case of him using his power and now also his physical strength against his victim. It wasn't consensual, it was coercion, and it was sick. And heartbreakingly, it wasn't the last time that we would hear a story like this. Because the next woman who so bravely came forward and began sharing her story was a woman named Shardarion, who often goes by Darion for short. She was brought into the station too for an interview not long after she came forward and reported her assault. And her interview with the investigators ended up going public. But before we get into the video, I just want to note one thing that really broke my heart about this interview in particular. because she comes across incredibly soft-spoken, gentle even. And maybe that's just her personality. I don't know. I don't know her personally. But watching her interview, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more behind that quiet voice. I mean, I imagine she must have been very scared to even speak up, maybe unsure if she'd even be believed, maybe even bracing herself for questions that would feel belittling or blaming her for what had happened. I don't know, maybe I'm way off, but once you hear her, I think you'll see what I mean. And it's believed that she was actually Daniel's first known victim and that it happened in 2013. At the time, she was struggling with addiction and she had been using drugs when Daniel pulled her over. Now, because she was under the influence, he arrested her. But she was still too high to be booked right away, so she had to be taken to the hospital so she could come down off the drugs. And that's when Daniel made his move, because in his eyes, she was exactly the kind of victim that he could exploit. And he wasted no time in doing so. Darian already knew that she was about to be in serious trouble for the drug crime, and Daniel knew that too. That's likely why he felt so confident that nobody would believe her if she spoke up. If she came forward, he probably assumed people would dismiss her as just being angry about getting arrested, or worse, say that she was high and had imagined or misunderstood what had happened. And what makes it even more disturbing is how truly calculated he was. He told her to lie all the way down, positioning her in a way that made it less likely for nurses or hospital staff to walk in. And it's sickening how deliberate each and every assault was. In a later interview with the media, she described it by saying, "No nurses, nobody came to check on me. Me being in the room with the police, not expecting to get violated the way I did, the way I was done, I just couldn't even believe it. I was speechless. I was scared. I felt like I was in survivor mode, so I had to do what he was making me do."
He comes to the bed and he takes off his belt and he places it on the seat on my left side. And I'm just sitting there, and after when he do that, I just look and it's there. His private is out, and it's basically like he didn't say nothing. He just basically know what to do. At this moment, I'm thinking like I don't have a choice. I'm in survival mode. I gotta do it.
It makes me physically sick to my stomach the way that each of these women felt like they couldn't even fight back, that they had no other choice. And each story is so different in how their assaults went down. But the one thing that they all had in common was the way that he made every single victim just feel so small, so unimportant, so much that they knew that their word against him would mean nothing. Or at least that's what they believed until Jannie came into the picture. 2 full months passed between Jannie's report and when Daniel was arrested on August 21st, 2014. During those 2 months, the police were investigating him, trying to see if there was any evidence to support the very many different accusations. And as it turned out, his patrol car had a GPS in it, and it tracked Daniel everywhere he went, which, wouldn't you know it, the logs matched these accusations perfectly. Every single woman knew the exact time and place when she was assaulted, and I mean, obviously, that's not something that you easily forget, and now this GPS proved that Daniel was in those exact spots at the exact time of these alleged attacks. I mean, there's no way that they just all happened to guess his exact location and set him up for this. I mean, this basically proved that the women were telling the truth. There was also the fact that many of these women either knew his name or described him perfectly. And remember, Daniel was also part of a minority group. And because of that, the physical description given by his victims made him way easier to identify among his colleagues. So that was enough to charge Daniel with 36 different charges. I'm not going to read all 36 of them, but I will say that they include things like sexual assault, battery, procuring lewd acts, and forcible oral sodomy. But get this, even though Daniel was arrested in August, he wasn't even officially fired from the police department until January of the following year. I don't know what the delay was, but to me, it sounds like this was one more case of Daniel's bosses and police people just dropping the ball. His trial didn't begin until November 2nd, 2015, and I think a lot of people were really concerned with how it was all going to play out. Like I said, his victims were the sort of people who didn't tend to be taken seriously. So even with all of the evidence against Daniel, it was still going to be an uphill battle for a lot of these women, an uphill battle for them to be believed, especially when this man that they were accusing was a police officer, someone people are taught to trust, and who many people assume could never do something like this. But the good news is that on December 10th, the jury found him guilty on 18 of the 36 charges. And just look at how he reacted to that verdict.
The verdict seemed to be in proper order. This is in the District Court of Oklahoma County, State of Oklahoma, the State of Oklahoma versus Daniel K. Holtzclaw, case number CF 2014-5869. Verdict, count 1, sexual battery. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do upon our oaths find as follows. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery and set punishment at 8 years. Count 2, procuring lewd exhibition. Not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 3, burglary in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of burglary in the first degree, nor lesser included. Count 4, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 5, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 6, defendant is not guilty of the crime of stalking. Count 7, defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 8, defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 20 years. Count 9, in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree. Count 10, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 11, rape in the first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 12, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 13, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 14, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 15, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 16, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 17, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 18, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition.
He wasn't shaking his head or sobbing or crying when he took advantage of those women. He wasn't questioning his actions when he was under investigation and still carrying out his crimes. He wasn't crying or feeling sorry when he was, not to be vulgar, but literally getting off at the expense of these fearful women. But now he was. And I cannot feel bad for someone who is only sorry once they're caught. Absolutely not. To no one's surprise, Daniel and his defense team claimed that this verdict wasn't fair, and his attorneys actually tried getting a retrial at one point, which, thankfully, that request was denied. Because I cannot imagine each of those victims having to go through a second trial. It would have been horrendous. Daniel ended up being sentenced to a grand total of 263 years in prison for his crimes. So, adios, my friend. Have fun sitting behind bars for the rest of your life and thinking about what you did, you disgusting freak. Now, like I said, Jani had been public about the crimes since day one. And after Daniel was found guilty and was sentenced, she continued to tell her story and talk to the press. This was a story that Jani never wanted to be forgotten because it mattered, not just for her, but for so many others. And the fact that she was willing to relive that trauma over and over again just to make sure that it could help somebody else, that kind of strength is nothing short of remarkable, truly. This case is just heartbreaking and infuriating in so many ways because what Daniel did and what the system allowed him to do for so long, it broke something in each of these women. And yet they still stood up. They still spoke out. And that kind of strength, that's what I want to leave you with today. That's why I wanted to talk about this case, because if you're somebody who has ever felt afraid to speak your truth, or if you've ever felt like your voice wouldn't matter or that nobody would believe you, I hope that this story shows you that you do matter. Your voice matters. It's powerful. And when you're ready to speak, there are people who will listen. But if you're not ready yet, that's of course okay too. But If you're going through something, I just want you to know I believe you and I'm standing with you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode with me. I know that this one was difficult to hear. I appreciate it. It's just such an important story and such an important reminder. So I appreciate it. Until the next one, guys, stay safe.